Hello everyone, it is me Sasha Kawaii Cat, and in today's video, I will be showing you how to color in Procreate. There is a free line art in the description of this video for you to download, and here's a quick tutorial on how to add your line art into Procreate. You can pause this video and download your line art, and then go ahead and come back so you can follow along with me. Okay, I assume you're back by now, so let's get straight into it. So the first thing you're going to do is add a layer below your line art layer. This is going to be your base layer. To keep things organized, you can go ahead and rename those layers like you see me doing in the video. The base layer is actually where we're going to add our character's skin tone. To make coloring easier, you can change your line art layer to a reference layer. Next, we're going to select the outer layer of our line art and then invert it. When you make your line art layer a reference layer, this allows your color to go right into your line art. If you don't want it to go right into the line art, you can turn the reference layer off, like you see me doing on the screen. This makes it easier for you to fill the area you selected with your base color. You can do this by using the fill tool to drag the color right into that selection. Once that's done, you can make your line art layer a reference layer again. The next step is to add a layer above your base color layer. This layer is going to be where you add your flat colors. To make coloring easier, you can change the background color from white to gray. So in this section, you can see me filling in my flat color. As you notice, all the color is going into the line art, which usually doesn't happen unless you have the line art layer as a reference layer. In order to do that gradient thing you see me doing with her hair, just create a layer above your flat color layer and use the airbrush tool. To do this, you have to clip that layer to your flat color layer, and then once you're done, you can merge the layers. Because I'm indecisive, I ended up doing several different flat colors, which is fine. You can play around with the colors if you want. To do that cleanup thing you see me doing, that's just selecting the area on your base color and then clearing it. So the option to clear your canvas is located the same place where you'd find the option to change your line art layer to a reference layer. The next step is to add a layer above our base color layer, and this is going to be our blush layer. So to create a sort of blush effect, we'll use our airbrush and color certain areas like her cheek, her shoulders, her nose. You can see me doing that on your screen. You can then change this layer to a multiply layer and lower the opacity. Next, I'm going to color certain areas on my line art. To do this, I'll add a layer above my line art layer and I'll clip it to my line art layer. So when you use the clip-in mask tool, basically any color that you add to that clip-in layer is gonna show up on the layer below it. In this case, that would be my line art layer. In this step, I'll select a sort of reddish brown color, like burgundy, I guess, and I'll use that color to basically color certain areas on the line art where her skin is. I think this sort of just makes my art look a little better, like the coloring looks a bit more interesting. Some people might color different areas as well, but I like to stick to just where her skin tone is. Next, we'll be adding our shadows. So to do that, you add a layer above your flat color layer and you'll make that layer a multiply layer and clip it to your flat color layer. I always forget to mention this, but a lot of the layers are going to be clipped to your base color. So the base color, the flat color, all of it basically, to make sure that the color is basically going straight onto the base color. It's easier for you to color so it doesn't go outside of the line art basically. So you can see me using a sort of purple color to make my shadows. Usually I don't really use purple as the default color. I'll change it later on to a sort of more reddish color, I guess, because I think having a more like red tone in there looks better on the skin. Once you're finished with your shadows, be sure to lower the opacity. There isn't like a fixed percentage that I use. Just lower it to whatever feels right for you. Next, we'll be doing the highlights. So you'll be creating a layer above your shadow layer. Don't forget to turn on clip-in mask. This layer is going to be an overlay layer. And to add the highlights, you'll be using a white color, and you can add that with the studio pen. Later on, you can lower the opacity on this slightly as well. Not too much because you want the light to show up, but just like a little bit if it's too bright. I like to add little hearts everywhere, so you'll see me adding a bunch of hearts to her hair, for instance. Hopefully you can follow along with the video and see the key areas that I like to highlight. It's important to know where your light source is, but I do play around with the colors a bit in terms of where I add the light and stuff, but I stick more closely to where the light would be coming from when I add the shadows, really. So you're going to see me doing some additional stuff here that maybe I should make a separate tutorial for. I'm essentially just doing some bonus coloring on the flat color layer. I'm creating like a galaxy type look for her book, and I think later on I add that sort of effect to her hat as well. There's just a lot of messing around with brushes here, but basically I'm selecting the areas I want to change the color of with the selection tool, and then I'm sort of playing around with the cloud brush and the sparkle brush. So for the clouds, I created a layer above my my flat color layer, and I added the clouds on, I think it was an overlay layer, and then later on I clip it to the layer below, I clip it to the flat color layer, and I think I add another overlay layer, and I add like some sparkles, then clip it below to the base, clip it to the flat color below again. See, it's a lot that I did right here. I think I'd probably have to do like a separate tutorial on how to do like a galaxy type design, but yeah, this isn't really necessary. This is just me playing around with the flat colors. I guess one tip I can add for coloring the shadows: when you're doing your shadows, I think it's best to turn off the reference effect on the line art layer and just sort of use your brush to like draw in the line art of where you want your shadows to go, and then sort of use the fill tool to assist with that. You can see me doing it on the screen. It's hard to explain a bit, but yeah, it can be difficult to add color in Procreate at times, but I mean, you can get it done. You really gotta mess around with the tools and sort of figure out what is the best way to do certain things. I really sort of go in and do a lot of different effects on the dress, but like I said, this stuff isn't necessary. This is just me messing around, trying to add some sort of interesting patterns on her dress and hat and everything. But yeah, once the coloring is done, you can go back to your background and change the color from like a gray color to whatever color you want the background to be. I think in this case I settled on like a lavender color because I thought that looked good with the overall color scheme of the drawing. The final effect that I usually do is to create a layer above your, I think this would be your highlight layer, and use your airbrush tool to add the effect you see me doing now. Taking a purplish color and adding some shadow below her, and then add in like a light sort of pink color above her. And then turning that layer to a overlay layer or a add layer. So I think in this case I settled on an overlay layer. You can see me adjusting the gradient and stuff, and this is just to add like a sort of effect, a lighter effect over the drawing. It makes it look a little bit better, if that makes sense. Another thing you can do is change the color of your line art. In order to do this, just create a layer above your line art layer and just use your fill tool to drag a color and drop it on that canvas. I think I went with like a purplish type color. Usually just any color that's not exactly black, but still like a dark color, like, you know, an off black basically. So that is the full tutorial, and I really hope this was useful for you, and I hope that even if I was bad at explaining some things, you guys could follow along with what I was doing in the video. I do think I probably need to make some additional tutorials on just like some shading tips, for instance, but I do hope that you guys can like do some basic coloring with this tutorial. I hope it was useful for you to watch this, and I hope I didn't fumble explaining things too much. So this video is actually a thank you for all of you supporting me and watching my channel, subscribing and all that. I recently hit 30K subscribers, which is amazing. Thank you so much for continuing to support me. Thank you so much for like watching and liking and commenting and all that. I always get really nice comments, and I'm so thankful for just the enormous support that I've gotten recently. I hope you all know how much I appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like my art and you'd like to show your support, you can always donate to my Ko-fi account. The link to that is in the description below. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!